Okay, wow, we're diving right into it today, huh? Iran, Israel, 181 missiles. Can you believe that number? 181 missiles fired straight from Iran into Israel.
I gotta say, when I saw that, it kind of blew my mind. It really changes the whole game, especially with the U.S. elections coming up and with, well, everyone always on edge about oil prices.
The thing is, this wasn't some typical proxy situation this time. This was Tehran making a statement, like they're done playing it safe.
Oh, totally. It's a huge message. So how does this, fit into Iran's master plan? They've got Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, all basically surrounding Israel. That can't be a coincidence. Not at all. And Hezbollah and Iran, they've got this deep-rooted connection, almost like they see their futures as linked. Think about it. Hezbollah, they're ingrained in Lebanon. They provide social services, even have seats in parliament, all while being a major military force. They're practically a state within a state, and this attack cements their bond with Iran.
Hezbollah's dug in deep in Lebanon, I get that. But let's talk about Iran for a sec.
Yeah.
They keep threatening to wipe Israel off the map, but honestly, can they back it up? Between you and me, when I first heard about the attacks, I thought, is this all talk?
That's the big question, right? They might be able to pull off a one-time thing, but a real long-term conflict with Israel, I don't see it. I mean, their economy is hurting from sanctions, their military tech is old news, and, well, their leadership isn't exactly known for being effective. Plus, they've got those protests at home to worry about. Remember those from last year? They're not as stable as they act.
And let's not forget, Israel's been working directly with the U.S. Central Command, the U.S. military's main hub for the whole Middle East. We're talking top-notch weaponry and intel sharing. They're ready for whatever Iran throws their way.
For sure, Israel's military is miles ahead of Iran's. They've got the newest technology, highly trained soldiers, and of course the support of, well, the biggest superpower out there.
Okay, that's good to hear. But even with a stronger military, Israel can't just ignore something like this. What happens next?
Well, the first thing Netanyahu did was address the Iranian people directly, separating them from their own government. He knows the regime depends on this whole protector image, so by saying, hey, we're not your enemy, he's hoping to weaken that narrative.
Smart move, no doubt. What about a military response? Israel's famous for that mowing the lawn tactic against Hezbollah, knocking them down a peg every so often.
Yeah.
But is it actually working? And does this latest attack change their strategy?
Yeah, it's debatable how well that mowing the lawn thing really works. I mean, sure, it slows Hezbollah down for a bit, buys Israel some time, but those missiles are still flying,
Totally. It's like, how many times are you going to mow the lawn before you realize you got to pull the weeds? You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's not a long-term solution. And now you've got this added pressure cooker with the U.S. elections. Democrats are worried about Gaza, saying things could get really bad there, humanitarian crisis and all that. Then there's Trump. He's saying the timing of all this is off. It's a mess. Any wrong move by Israel and things could really blow up.
Ugh. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
It's like the whole world's watching, just waiting to see what happens next. And let's not forget about oil prices. I check those gas prices every day, and let me tell you, this whole situation has me a little freaked out.
I hear ya. Oil markets hate uncertainty, and right now it's all anyone's talking about. But it's kind of interesting, right? Democrats, Republicans, they might have different ideas about how to handle it, but they both want things to calm down. Nobody wants to see oil prices go crazy, especially not this close to an election.
True, true. Although, gotta say, I find it kind of funny, Trump criticizing the timing. Didn't some reports say it was actually Biden who told Israel to hold back in Gaza before? Talk about playing politics.
Yeah, it just shows you how complex this whole thing is. You see a headline, you think it's simple, but there's so much history, so much going on beneath the surface that people don't even realize.
Totally. And Iran's not just causing trouble in the Middle East. They're stirring things up everywhere, propping up Venezuela, backing rebels in Yemen. They're like global troublemakers.
Oh, absolutely. They've got this whole asymmetric warfare thing down to a science. Proxies, unconventional tactics, anything to get ahead and mess with their rivals. They can't take on the U.S. or Israel head on, so they create chaos.
And it's working. Remember that attack on U.S. troops in Syria last month? Iran-backed militias, everyone thinks. And what did the U.S. do? Basically, send a sternly worded letter.
It's worrying, for sure. The U.S. seems hesitant to get directly involved. Maybe they're afraid of another long war. Who knows?
So Israel's kind of on their own then, dealing with Iran and their little helpers. That's a lot of pressure.
It is. And it makes you wonder, what happens when Israel's had enough? When mowing the lawn doesn't cut it anymore?
Okay, now you're making me nervous. But hold on a sec. We got to bring this back to our listeners for a minute. This isn't just some game, some far-off thing, right? It affects everyone.
100%. Things can change so fast, it's crazy. One minute we're talking missiles. The next minute oil prices are through the roof. A whole global economy's freaking out.
Seriously. Yeah. And it's not just about money either. Look at the Free Palestine movement. I know, on the surface it's about supporting Palestinians, which is totally valid, but there are some iffy things going on too. Extreme rhetoric, links to terrorism, even violence at protests.
That's always the risk with these deep-rooted emotional conflicts, right? People with more extreme views, they can hijack the whole thing, and suddenly the line between protesting for what you believe in and, doing something dangerous, it gets blurry.
For sure. And that's why it's so important for everyone listening to think for themselves. Don't believe everything you hear. Yeah. Look deeper, get different perspectives, and talk about it.
Couldn't agree more. It's easy to get caught up in the moment, especially when feelings are running high. But we got to take a breath, step back, and ask, what am I missing here? What else is there to this story?
Well said. And that kind of leads into what I think is the biggest question here. What's next? What happens if this just keeps escalating?
The million-dollar question. No easy answers there, but we got to talk about it. The stakes are huge, not just for Iran and Israel, but for everyone.
Wow, when you put it that way, it really makes you think, And it's not like this is just happening over there, This affects all of us, even if you don't see it right away.
Exactly. And that's why we need to understand the bigger picture. Yeah, we see the missiles, the politics, but underneath it all, it's about beliefs, power, the whole future of that region. And here's the thing. A lot of it depends on who's running things in Washington. That alone could change everything.
No pressure, right?
Yeah.
So what can regular people like our listeners even do? It feels kind of overwhelming. Like one person can't change anything.
Yeah, it's easy to feel that way. But honestly, knowledge is power. The more you understand this conflict, the history, the motivations, all the little details, the better you can see through the BS and figure things out for yourself.
It's like they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
We can't fix everything overnight, but we can break it down, understand it bit by bit.
And don't underestimate just staying informed. Pay attention to what's going on, not just the headlines, but the analysis, different points of view. Don't just accept what you hear. Question it. Find sources outside your comfort zone.
Be part of the conversation, right? Don't just sit there and let it wash over you. Think critically.
Absolutely. That's how we become more informed citizens, not just about the Middle East, but about the world. We start to see the connections, how everything influences everything else, how it all affects us.
That's what this whole deep dive has been, right? Connecting the dots.
Yeah.
We started with those missiles, and look where we ended up talking about global power, the future of the Middle East, and our part in all of it.
It's all connected. And yeah, it can feel overwhelming, but there's also power in realizing that. We may not have all the answers, but by asking questions, by being curious, we're taking a step in the right direction.
So to everyone listening, keep asking those questions. Keep digging deeper. And don't let this be the end of it. This is a conversation that needs to continue. Until next time, stay curious.